Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at the standard 4MT260 from Bachmann. This particular model is of number 76109 in BR line black with the lake crest. So without further ado, let's get started. The standard 4 moguls were designed by Robert Riddles, with 115 locos being built at Doncaster, Derby, and Harwich from 1952 to 1957. They were essentially a tidied up version of Ivett's 4MT260s from the LMS. Despite being in the standard range, the 4MT moguls did not share the same wheels as the 3MT tanks and moguls, however they all shared the same cylinder casting. They were allocated to all regions except for the western. 15 went to the eastern and midland regions, 13 to the northeastern, 35 went to Scotland, and 37 on the southern region. 17 of the southern allocated locos received BR1B tenders, which had a higher axle loading than the locos. It is worth mentioning that number 76114 has the distinction of being one of the last steam locos to be built at Doncaster. They were primarily used on freight but found their way onto passenger duties, such as their mixed traffic nature. Withdrawals began in May 1964, with the final locos lasting until December 1967. Out of the 115 locos built, 4 are preserved, these being 76079 on the North Yorkshire Moors Railway, 76084 on the North Norfolk Railway, 76017 on the Watercress Line, and 76077, which is currently under restoration at Locomotive Maintenance Services in Loughborough. 76019 was built at Doncaster in August 1957 and shedded at Thornton Junction before being moved to Dunfermline Upper, where it ended its life in September 1966 and was scrapped in January the following year, having only been in service for just 9 years. Bachmann first produced the standard 4MT mogul in 2006 and 7 and have released models featuring the BR2A and BR1B tenders, including the preserved 76079 and 76114 as a limited edition in the past. The recent 2022 releases take the identities of 76084 in as preserved condition and 76066 in weathered condition. Our example, 76109, was released in 2012. The model comes in the standard Bachmann packaging, with the exploded diagram, instructions, and warranty paperwork located underneath the clamshell container. The accessory bag consists of cylinder drain cocks, cab doors, vacuum pipes, and front footsteps. Don't fit the front footsteps if you have tight radius curves, as they'll come into contact with the wheels of the pony truck. Bachmann have captured the look of the prototype exceptionally well. The model has a very neat and even satin finish, which gives off a nice shine while also not looking too flat and glossy or toy-like. The paintwork is done to a high standard, with the BR mixed traffic lining being faithfully reproduced with no bleeding or blemishes visible. It's quite hard to get a black loco wrong, honestly. All of the tampo printed numbers and various plates are crisp and legible as well. The BR Standards in real life were well known for having an extreme wealth of pipework visible that would normally be tucked away on any other locomotive. This has been accurately reproduced here with all the appropriate pipework on top of the firebox and underneath the cab being separately fitted and made of plastic, but they seem quite durable and sturdy to some degree. Great care will be required when handling the model because of this, however. The handrails alongside the boiler and regulator valve are also separately fitted, with no glue marks appearing to be visible. The chimney appears to be part of the smokebox molding and has some flashing in contrast to the dome, which is the opposite. The front of the model also features a separately fitted handrail and smokebox door dart, along with the lamp irons on the running board and on top of the smokebox door, which are true to scale and not oversized. The smokebox door does not open, but it doesn't need to in my opinion. The steps on the running board are nicely molded and again look true to scale. The steam pipes protruding from the sides of the smokebox are also a part of the molding, and no flashing appears to be present on these. The driver's side of the smokebox features an ejector piece, which also appears to be molded, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was separately fitted. It looks rather fine regardless. The front and rear buffer beams feature sprung buffers and coupling hooks. Unfortunately for me at least, no screw-link couplings are included in the detail bag. The model weighs in at 297 grams thanks largely to the running board being made out of die-cast, as is the case with most steam locomotives from Bachmann, along with the die-cast chassis. The molded rivet detail all over the model is exceptional and stands out quite well, particularly on the running board. The top of the firebox features the metal safety valves and whistle, which are quality features. These could have easily been plastic with a poor metallic paint application, but thankfully that is not the case here. All the wheels are nicely made, with all of the valve gear and rods being reproduced beautifully and look very prototypical. The pony truck is sprung and is held in place by a screw. The brake shoe hangers are molded to the base plate mounting, with separately fitted metal sanding lines running down towards each of the driving wheels. The brake rigging on both the loco and tender is pre-fitted. There is no depiction of inside motion between the frames, unfortunately. The glazing in the cab windows is done very well. On the cab roof there is a molded hatch which is not posable, however it does look quite well. The rear of the cab also has a separately fitted handrail. Cab interior detail is present but not painted. This appears not to have changed, with the cab interior still being simple in terms of decoration on the two recent releases. This may have been acceptable in the early 2000s and 2010s, but in 2022, this is disappointing in my opinion, but it doesn't bother me too much. The tender is produced to the same level as the locomotive, with separately fitted handrails on both the front and rear. The coal load is removable, revealing the space underneath. This is plastic, however, and not metal like on some Bachmann steam locos. The detail on top is done really well. The axle boxes and springs on the tender frames are molded to a high degree and look very convincing, as do the pre-fitted steps on both front and rear of the tender. Detail underneath the tender is pretty sparse apart from the pre-fitted brake rigging and separately fitted water scoop. The handles on the front of the tender are separately fitted and don't seem to be made from the same durable plastic as the pipework on the locomotive, so be careful in this area. The rear of the tender features even more separately fitted detail, including lamp irons, a handrail, and a ladder that the crew would use in real life. This is plastic, unfortunately, and is a bit on the chunky side as a result, but it seems to be pretty sturdy and durable. It is worth noting that the tender is much lighter than the locomotive. Both loco and tender have NEM coupling pockets with tension locks pre-fitted. Body removal is done with only 2 screws, one at the front underneath the pony truck and one at the rear underneath the cab. This rear screw also holds the drawbar. You will need to disassemble the brake rigging and remove the pony truck in order to get to the front screw. There is no electrical connection between the loco and tender, which means that there are no tender pickups and the DCC system is in the locomotive. The circuit board and DCC socket are located towards the front of the chassis instead of being in the middle, which makes fitting a decoder a bit of a challenge. Good luck fitting a sound chip in there, as there's virtually no room to fit a speaker. I suppose this is what the tender is for if you're feeling really ambitious. There is a metal weight fitted inside a section of the boiler. The base plate can be removed with 3 screws, but the pre-fitted brake rigging will need to be removed in order to gain access to them. Unfortunately, the base plate is hardwired and the wheels do not feature brass bearings. Pickup is only on 6 drive wheels and are of the usual wiper variety. This is where I feel the loco could have been modified for future runs to feature the DCC socket and the tender, and be able to utilize tender pickups. Bachmann have done this previously on select models, such as the Jubilee and Patriot, with current versions featuring an upgraded 21-pin DCC socket and tender pickup since 2014. A bit of advice when refitting the chassis: make sure the pipework on the fireman's side finds its locating hole unless you want to damage it or break it off. Also, the reversing gear is a part of the chassis and is made out of a flexible plastic material, so this will need to be refitted to its appropriate location. This is an extremely fiddly task, and it's my only major gripe with the model. The drawbar is made out of metal and has 2 settings, the nearest for close coupling and the furthest being more conventional. The close coupling setting should only be used if your layout has generous curves or for static display. There is a pin underneath the tender where the drawbar connects to. It's a rather fiddly job, especially on the close coupling setting, but personally speaking, I have not had any issues with the drawbar coming detached while the loco is in motion. As stated earlier, the model has a die-cast chassis and is powered by a standard Bachmann 3-pole motor, which offers decent performance and doesn't make too much noise as seen here. Personally, I've never had any trouble with these and they can give quite a decent performance, while also not making too much noise. The slow speed performance is adequate, despite what many would call a poor quality mechanism. My model copes well with any decent like trains with very little signs of slipping, and no stalling on point work, despite not featuring tender pickups. If you go the DCC route, it would be best to install some sort of stay alive feature to prevent the model from stalling on points, or at low speeds. All in all, Bachmann's model of the standard 4MT260 is a wonderful model, and I would highly recommend getting one. However, I would not recommend you pay the stupid ludicrous prices that the new ones are being sold at. I got mine for £90 from Hatton's, and I've seen these range anywhere between £50 to £110 in the second-hand market. My advice to you would be to get a pre-owned one if you're feeling reserved on money. That'll be all from me then. As this is a new style of review I'm trying out, feedback would be greatly appreciated. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.